Hey, folks, I'm here with Willie Rome. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great tonight, Davis.
And good to hear. And we're going to get straight to the goddamned point. And actually, William, you know what? You summed it up perfectly. Oh, just blast it all to hell. Good to hear. And we're going to get straight.
The dangers of live streaming.
Yes, the dangers of live streaming. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, there we go. It's muted. You know what? You summed it up perfectly right before the call. We're no different than the Israelites, are we?
Nope.
Yeah, you put it. This is what happened when the Israelites decide to worship the golden calf. Except ours, we don't even have a golden calf. We've got a green cartoon frog. And you think I'm joking about this. You think demons aren't real. Demons are just a metaphor for schizophrenia. Yeah, you think that this damn green frog, this damn hyper sigil, it's nothing but people being sarcastic. It's nothing but symbolism, man. You worshipped a green frog, a deity of chaos and disorder and irony. And this is where we are. And so where are we? I'll tell you where we freaking are. We have David Duke promoting, retweeting a Jewish pornographer. We've got Richard Spencer having a peace protest in Washington, D.C., and we have the Antifas protesting his peace protest. We've got Breitbart saying, don't criticize Kushner. This is the world we are in. This is what happens when you worship a god of irony. And go ahead and pretend it's just a symbol. I don't care. Look at the damn world. You know, it's like, well, technically playing with the Ouija board didn't make our car crash into the busload of nuns. Yeah, but it sure as hell happened right after you played with the damn thing, didn't it?
We are reaching levels of surreal that shouldn't even be possible. Dolly is jealous he wasn't alive at this time.
You know what? This is almost enough. This is almost enough for me to become atheist. Okay, because the left. This is like a whole bunch of automatons. You know, somehow got put onto the wrong side of the chessboard, and they just keep going tick 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 tick, and they don't even know what they're doing. They don't know what their inputs are. They don't know what their outputs are. This is people. And then, you know, this is what I was talking about on my last live stream. And guys, we're not going to talk about Syria. Okay, I talked about that a bit on my Patreon podcast. We're not talking about frickin' Syria. But it's people just putting these narratives into themselves. I'm a right-wing death squad. That sounds pretty cool. I liked how the Nazi guys looked in Wolfenstein. You know, the new one. They look pretty cool with their leather jackets. I am right-wing death squad. Let's go have sex with a trap, because that's not gay, yo.
I'm holding back laughing because I got criticized for laughing too much on your podcast, but that's just good.
This is where we're at. Okay, half of the alt-right are traps and trannies and good frickin' Lord. And then the other half, I swear to God, the other half are virtue signaling about how they don't like trannies. Meanwhile, they're married to a transsexual wife in IRL.
It's true. I mean, like, you hit it, Davis. I was listening to another podcast. I'm not going to say which one. If people heard it, they probably know. But they were talking about Keck, and this is during the inauguration. This is still before Trump was elected, and they actually make the point. Oh, this is how religions start. You add this. It happens organically. They were actually talking about how Keck is becoming a new religion. And I'm just like, what the fuck are they talking about? And like I said, like you pointed out before we started, I mean, this is the you worship Keck like the Israelis voted a golden calf, and your God Emperor turned against you. You fucking idiots.
Yeah, this is how religion starts. No, this is how cults start. Yeah, like one of the reasons I'm a Christian is because it's how idiosyncratic Christ is. Okay, like, why do you think the Jews murdered him? All right, if he had been Keck, the Jews wouldn't have murdered him. They would have said, "Yay, our god of Keck is finally here." No, instead you got this guy he's just saying all this weird stuff. It's like, yeah, you should probably eat right, but guess what? It's what comes out of your mouth that makes you unclean. Yeah, and then they accuse him of all this foul stuff, and he's a master rhetorician, and he doesn't say a single damn thing in his own defense. He says, they say you're the king of the Jews. If you say so. That's all he says. Doesn't defend himself. Doesn't even acknowledge the validity of the court. He is just so idiosyncratic. Yeah, like, I'm not a Christian because I want to be a Christian because I got promised cake in heaven with Jesus. I'm a Christian because, like it or not, it's pretty bloody convincing. Keck is the god you want. Keck is the golden calf.
Keck is like all forced religions. It's just your narcissism. It's like, it's your narcissism. This is what I want, and so this is what I'm going to worship. It's no different from the SJWs in that sense. And I fought for a long time. Now that we're talking about this, I'm thinking about it, I fought for a long time. And Davis, I had disagreements with Aurini and other people like this when people would say, no, the many segments of the alt-right are just SJWs. So I was like, no. But you know what? In this sense, it's fucking bang on. You have to come to realize it.
And this is why I'm saying it's almost enough to make me atheist. Because the whole atheist argument is that humans are nothing but advanced automatons, essentially. And you can take like these insects, and like there's this one insect that will do this complex ritual before it goes into its nest. And then if you move its nest 2 centimeters, it will do the exact same ritual again and again and again and again. It's like a broken computer. It's like a wristwatch. And the atheists say that we are just really, really advanced computers. And I hold that we are not. Okay, like this idea that computers can run everything is absolutely asinine. I kind of went on a tangent about self-driving cars. There's this phenomenon in driving where one person brakes on the highway because maybe there's a rabbit or something, or who knows, maybe Thunderfoot's running across the highway trying to deal with its existential angst of being a genetic failure. So the first person brakes, and the second person behind them brakes a little bit harder because they don't know how hard the first person's braking, and the person behind them, and so you wind up with this huge slowdown in traffic develops, all because Thunderfoot actually looked into a damned mirror for once in his life. And you get there and you think there must be some sort of accident, and you get there's no accident. It just goes away. And there's this idiotic idea that self-driving cars will be able to compensate properly by communicating with one another so that we don't have to have this. It's still going to happen. I mean, a self-driving car is just a decision-making process that's much, much more primitive than you are. It's just completely devoted to driving, as opposed to you listening to that idiot on conservative talk radio in Canada who does nothing but spout liberal talking points.
Well, as I said on Facebook in a joke post, and I'm sincere about this, I'm against self-driving cars, but for humanist ways, I think, I'm a humanist, and I'll go into this later because I've been listening to War of the Worlds on audiobook, and Wells was weird. He's an archetypical liberal. If you read his early sci-fi novels, on the one hand, they're all about the dangers of technology and how human science and progress is, but at the same time, he's a progressive. He just didn't realize what he was writing or something. But it's so inefficient because, like, I joke that you take the about those self-cleaning vacuums, Davis, that run on their own?
Self-cleaning? Okay.
You know the vacuums that run across the floor on their own? You just hit the button. What?
The Roombas?
Yeah, those vacuums that were run on their own. Why would I get in a self-driving car if those vacuums that run on their own are constantly vacuuming the same spots? They continuously hit the wall in the same spot. Like, it's so inefficient. Like, you're risking your life in this whole transhumanist bullshit.
Well, and listen, saying that these things are going to... It's like saying, well, as soon as we get a better computer processor and we can make more efficient RAM, we will no longer have programs that crash out or hang.
Yeah, okay.
And that's actually the the halting problem. That is the halting. You will always have programs that because you don't know if a program is crashed or not until it's crashed. And even once it's crashed, you don't actually know that it's crashed. It's just sitting there doing fuck all.
Right.
And just wait until that hits the grid controlling all of these damn cars moving around on the road. And the thing is, humans don't crash. They should, but they don't. But you know what I'm seeing right now? Thanks to the cult of Kek, thanks to you damn demon worshippers, it's beginning to look like people are crashing. People have worshipped computers for so long that they are turning into freaking computers, and they are crashing.
Dead on.
Here's another one. Somebody was asking me about it was it was InfoWarrior. You guys all know InfoWarrior. He's a great guy, and he was asking me what I think about all of this flat Earth conspiracy theory going on. And you know what? I think it's related. I think, and you need to bounce off of me with this, brother, because I think that it's become like the establishment is so intrinsically broken. And by the establishment, I don't mean the United States government or whatever. I mean the entire design of our society. You know, like marketing. It's not we're going to tell you what you want to buy, and you're going to come buy it. Yeah, I said that about movies recently. It's like we're going to tell you what to watch, and you're going to watch it, and then you're going to buy it, and you're going to be happy. And these freaking these apes couldn't understand what the hell I was talking about.
Well, I can bounce that off with Netflix. My brother-in-law used to have a Netflix account, and I never watched Daredevil. Everybody praised it, but everybody's like, "Oh, Netflix." Except for Daredevil, which every other show I watched on Netflix was absolute shit. Genghis Khan or Marco Polo, the Medici. I'm like, what the fuck? You people are just buying Netflix because you're told to buy Netflix. So that's how I'm going to bounce off that one. Go ahead.
You know what? David Firth had a great video about pop music. And there's this bit, it's like we pretend to report the news. We tell you what you want to listen to. You go and listen to it. You like it. You give us money to...
Yep, exactly.
This whole damned system. And it's falling apart. You know, somebody in the comments commented that that flat Earth is just trolling. That's like saying traps aren't gay is just trolling. Now, it is in a lot of cases. But why? Like, the thing is that in many cases, it's not trolling. Okay, a lot of these people are dead serious. Or they're doing such an effective job trolling that it doesn't damn well matter. If you're trolling me that traps aren't gay while you screw some rent boy in the ass, I'm sorry, the boy pussy, you know, at what point does it no longer matter whether or not this is ironic behavior?
Right.
And what's happened is the system is so broken that conspiracy theories are becoming popular. And I don't mean conspiracy theory in the CIA discount what they said. Because like at least a third of the conspiracy theories are true. But the thing is that people don't believe in conspiracy theories. Most people don't believe in them because they've well researched it. Okay, like the average monkey out there does not check on consumer price reports before they buy a car. They buy the damn Civic because it said Civic Nation, and that kind of sounds sort of like something interesting or noble, so I'll buy a damn Civic.
Uh-huh.
So when the system is this broken, it becomes fashionable to believe in alternative hypotheses, to believe in the Bigfoots, and to believe in UFOs, and to believe in the Kennedy assassination, and 9/11 was an inside job, and to believe in the...
And we didn't land on the moon, and all that stuff.
Exactly. And you know what? Half of those are probably true. All right? But that's not why they're believing in them. They don't believe in 9/11 because Building 7 fell down for no goddamn reason an hour after the BBC reported it had fallen down. They believe in 9/11 because it makes them cool.
Right.
You know what? 9/11 spare change was not controlled opposition. That was just the first iteration of this garbage, and now it's so bad that it's flat Earth. Because you can be a woke Negro and believe in flat Earth. Believing in 9/11, that involves some political commitments. You might be racist against the Jews if you believe in 9/11, but believing in the flat Earth, then why? Whom? I don't know.
Right.
We are Ouroboros eating itself, except we've eaten all the way to the back of the brain. And yeah, it's like this is, Common Filth just got back onto YouTube. Praise the Lord. And in his recent video, he was calling all of us out for believing in Trump. Now I'm not quite that. I still look at things to some degree politically. Like, what can we do to ensure the best future for our children? And Common Filth does have a bit of an easy time. Heck, he even argues that the feminists would be placated if Hillary had been elected. we wouldn't have YouTube cracking down on us so hard if Hillary had been elected.
To be cracking harder, what is he talking about?
Well, the whole removing advertisers, adjusting the search algorithms, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't know that he's completely right about this. In fact, I don't think he is. I think it's a lot easier to point out all of the flaws of Donald Trump and contrast them to the flaws. Like, it's looking backwards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But he has a hell of a lot of good points in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt Parrott, I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Parrott, Traditional Youth Network, the Traditional Workers Party. He's a good friend of mine. And he brought up a good point in a recent article of his that I think, and we can go further into this, one of the reasons the right jumped on Trump, and I admit I'm guilty as hell of this, is that things have gotten so bad that it was a little too easy in the fact that we on the alt-right, and once again, I'm guilty of this, we were too afraid to really realize how hard this struggle is going to be, and we thought Trump would be an easy way out to solve all our problems. I think that's one of the reasons, and we're one of the great reasons for this great disillusionment since he had with Syria. And by the way, we're not going to talk about Syria. One thing I'm going to say about the normies are saying, well, and a lot of people are saying it on the alt-right too, well, this was just a display of power to impress the Russians and the Chinese. Really? He told Russia in advance. You think Putin is such a fucking idiot that advanced to the top of the KGB and is now basically the new czar of Russia for almost 20 years, that he's going to be impressed with the light show, but that he was told in advance was a light show to impress him? I don't think so. But what I'm saying is the great disillusionment is because now we have to realize how hard and how long the struggle to save the West and Christianity and our people is really going to be. Now we really have to commit ourselves because there is no easy way out.
Dan Allison just nailed it. On a long enough timeline, Common Filth is right about everything.
Yeah, it's true.
But yes, you know what? And that is, I think that is the point, is right-wing death squads. Yeah, I tweeted out earlier, the problem with the right-wing death squads is that half of them will abandon their post to go sleep with traps.
I saw that one on Twitter just before we started.
But yeah, you know what? We need right-wing guerrilla warriors tearing down the corporations.
Right.
Okay. We need righteous right-wing men raising their families properly, getting their act together, getting life together, and that's not easy. You know, it's easy to vote for Daddy Trump while you're some trap into a diaper fetish, which is a real thing.
I've seen the pictures. It's ugh.
Yep, Daddy Trump on its what was that masturbating YouTube account wearing a diaper.
And I just had to break in. Commonfield has this quote that's a little. He does all the time. It's like stop white people, and this is just a little anecdote. As I've said before in previous podcasts, I'm the only white guy at my job, and this isn't an issue of race in the sense that. So I was talking to one of my good friends there. We go to lunch. I work in the mall, so we go to the food court almost every day and hang out and have lunch. But we were unloading the truck at my job the other day, and I will never forget the look of horror. And this guy is 36, so he's about our age. The look of horror on this black coworker's face when I told him about furries. He had never heard of furries before. It's just not in the black world where he is. The idea of people dressing up and being attracted to having sex with other animals, the look of horror and what the fuck that is real on his face was just hysterical.
Yeah, that's one woke Negro right there.
He was like, what? I just shattered his world saying that. And that is an example of how broken as Western white Christian men we really are. That this inner city Negro looked on horror when I described that. That was like a wake up call. Like, wow, we are fucked in a way. I'm sorry, not trying to be funny about this, but it's like everything's come in the past week. You realized how fucked everything really is and how easy we thought it'd be with Trump. But no, it's a lot deeper than one election. It is, to go back to what you were saying in your article, Davis, we'll go into it. Fantastic article. I told you that everybody should read David's latest article at Stares at the World. How personal this war really is, and that we need to, it's almost Fight Club. The real war is our own lives. To better ourselves before we can better our society.
Our war is a spiritual war.
Yes.
And, something you said, which I'm going to put right out there, because I was worried when I wrote that piece. I was worried that was black pill. And I am so glad to see that it was not received that way. So, white pill. White righteous pill of burning fury and righteousness. That's I'm so done with this damn political world, man. Mm-hmm. Maybe I might not have seen it quite so evidently in the United States, because the United States is not so on the surface patina. On a deep level, it's broken. But on the surface, you get to carry guns. People are still, appreciably racist there. People actually go to church, and that's actually an issue in politics in the United States, even though all of these churches are cucked.
Right.
Whereas here in Canada, and getting back here, it is just utterly pathetic. And my parents are trying to tell me that things are shifting rightward, because we've got Truvada Trudeau, in the Ottawa. And we've got the socialist NDP party ruling Alberta. And people are starting to move rightward. My parents are trying to tell me. And I'm looking at this. They're starting to move rightward. Meanwhile, every single fast food restaurant and gas station I go to has a whole bunch of Sea Mexicans working there, a whole bunch of indentured servants imported here.
I love that phrase, Sea Mexicans. Sorry.
Oh, it's great. They've
I love that.
Completely deracinated. There's some Japanese girl with this a haircut that is almost shorter than my own. Ooh. And I think she's straight. Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's a boy or a girl at first. They're Japanese. They barely have tits.
Ouch.
That's what's working at all these damn places. And people are starting to move rightward. They're starting? Well, maybe they started way too damn late. It's like the tortoise and the hare, except we're the tortoise and we're sleeping while the hare is running towards the finish line.
Yeah.
So, and so maybe I was a little bit dazzled by the fact that you actually get to carry gats. in the United States. Starting to move rightward. You know, like I wish I could be a white nationalist, but I just don't see anything worth preserving.
Well, here's the thing. I love the United States. I really, really do. I mean, both sides of my family. Sorry, I dropped my phone. Both sides of my family have been here since before the revolution. My part of my mother's family goes right back to the original Dutch of Fort Orange. You know, New Holland in New York City. But we cannot save it all. And there's recently been talk how bad the Boers have been. The Boers have it. The Boers are going to be annihilated in South Africa very soon. And the mistake the Boers made, and we cannot make this. I can't speak for Canada, Davis. You'll have to speak this. But as an American, we cannot save the whole continent our forefathers conquered and created. We just can't. We're going to, by doing that, as shown by electing Donald Trump, thinking, oh, Trump's going to save the whole country, we're going to end up like the Boers, where they refused to give up the whole continent, the whole country of Southern Africa that their ancestors conquered and created. And now they're on the edge. We can't save this ship. It's the Titanic sinking, and we're just trying to save the deck chairs. We have to save a lifeboat. What I mean by that is we have to save as much as we can of it, but the whole continent, the whole culture we have to say cannot be saved. We have to create something new.
And that's the damn problem. That's exactly the problem with white nationalism, is that as soon as you sign on support the white race, now you're supporting the traps for Trump in the adult diapers. You know, yeah. You're signing on for let's worship Keck. This is how religions start. You're signing on for meme magic. You're signing on for all of this degenerate filth coming out of the white race.
And we can't save the whole race. We're going to have to lose a lot of our people. This has always happened throughout history, where some of the people are irredeemable. Not all Romans could have been saved when the empire fell. That's just how it works.
Well, and you know what? Go ahead. Modern day Rome, the peoples that make up modern day Rome, yes, a lot of their genetic code comes from ancient Rome, but a lot of it comes from the Germans that took over Rome, because Roman turned into a degenerate hell. There is a culling to be
exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. There's a culling. There is going to be a culling of our race, and we have to face that. Not all white people can be saved. At this point, they're racial trash that has to be thrown out. I'm sorry if anybody whose tweets or whatever on Tumblr is read by a common filth video cannot be saved. I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I will. I'm usually big on the whole forgiveness thing because Lord knows I need it. But you're right. Yeah, the people that Common Filth is quoting on the Tumblristas videos, no, they aren't being saved. Yeah, there's we've been reacting so hard against the whole miscegenation thing being pushed by pornography and pushed by Hollywood that I think we really lost the track on all of that. That you know what the successful race is going to be? It's going to be the one that actually reproduces in stable families and goes to church.
Yes.
That is going to be the new race. And it's probably going to be about 80% white chromosome. Okay, but guess what? It's not going to be 100%. Yes, we'll still have blondes. Yes, we will still have these traditions. Okay, but the whole 1488 white race, I don't see it. I don't see it, especially not when all the leaders of the 1488 are Jews.
Yeah. Well, I would say this too for a little white pill, and a lot of people are going to take this as a black pill. I'm unloading tonight because I've been thinking a lot since the whole, the God Emperor fell. If you will, from
interrupt you quickly because we got a comment from Britain Berend. Nothing of value will be lost.
Yes.
That's it. Nothing of value will be lost. That is your silver lining right there. Nothing of value will be lost. Like, I'm mixed Scottish and Italian. Okay, and even my Scottish is mixed Scottish and Viking invaders. And you know what? Everybody the Vikings killed when they invaded, nothing of value was lost. Weak degenerates were lost. Cucks were lost. Soy males were lost.
Comment to Quintus Curtius for that. I saw that him say that first. That's awesome.
Oh, soy. That's the new adjective, folks. And adopt soy into your vernacular. And I'm sorry, brother. You go finish what you were saying.
Well, what I was going to say is there is a white pill. I was reading today about France. Now, I don't think Marine Le Pen is going to be the savior of France. This is why I say this, and it's going to go into a wider discussion, in that we talk about the culture war, but we actually haven't been fighting the culture war. We can talk about all we've been fighting is the political front. What I mean by this, we have these podcasts, we have these blogs, but it's all political analysis of the contemporary and this isn't a criticism of you or Beckloff. You guys do great work and Forney, great work. But we haven't been fighting the culture sense in that we culturally and spiritually renewing our people. And the white pill comes from this. I was reading about France. Now, 1% of Catholics in France over 60 support the Front National. And at the same time, 10%, it may seem small, but it is an improvement. 10% of Catholics under 30 support the Front National. And what I'm going to mean by this is what I'm being long-winded. I'm not as articulate as you, Davis. I apologize to the listeners. But,
you're working on it. You're better at making movies.
Thank you. That our people are going to be saved in small numbers. They're going to be occurring. But we have to realize this is a generational struggle. Look at Marine Le Pen. She's a boomer, and she has a lot of characteristics of the boomer. She's right in a lot of things, and I want her to be elected. Same reason I want Geert Wilders to be elected. He defends degeneracy, but he's a step in the right direction in terms he supports homosexuals and all this. But Muslims, you gotta get rid of Muslims and that. But look at Marine Le Pen, her niece, Jean-Marie Le Pen's granddaughter. She is far more right-wing than Marine. She is far more right. She talks about anti-white racism. She's a dedicated Catholic. And as polls are showing, younger Catholics or younger people in general are more right-wing. I mean, Davis, a generation under us who's been raised on YouTube where they see people like PewDiePie and JonTron and all these people, they're far more right-wing than the millennials. So we have to give it time. So this is my point I'm making. We haven't fought the culture war. So for the upcoming years, maybe even the next couple decades, we have to fight the culture war in that we win the hearts and minds of the upcoming generations. So when the baby boomers and the older people that are fucking cucked and lost are finally retired and dying out of power, we can assume control where we become the new culture in this sense. Some of your listeners might like this, but Lenin had a point. To paraphrase him when he said, "You can fight me, but I already have your children." So our mission now has to be, in the sense, to create a new people, because the current white race cannot be saved. We have to create a new white race in terms of a culture and spirituality, because of the younger people that aren't in power, that don't have the buying power, aren't in the marketplace yet, can still be redeemed in that sense. That's what I was going to say.
And you know what? Let me add to that. We don't do it by branding.
Absolutely not. I'm so sick of the word branding, but go ahead.
Funny thing. So there's this Canadian version of Donald Trump running, and I've looked into this guy a little bit, and I don't like him. I don't like him because he's a guy that made money off the tech sector, and then everything imploded, and he lost all his money. So he became a business consultant, and now he's a millionaire again. That's not a success story. That is a damn brand.
Right.
And then I made the mistake of listening to Common Filth earlier. Did you know that Donald Trump started up The Apprentice because he lost a lot of money on business deals? So maybe he isn't the Canadian knockoff of Donald Trump. Maybe he's the Canadian clone of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I am so sick of branding. I am so sick of modulating the damn message to try and get an audience. I'm sick of people saying what others want to hear.
Yes. As I would say, Davis, our message cannot simply be a marketing scheme.
Because the marketing scheme is the damn problem. The medium
Yes.
is the message. And, you know, I think it's worth considering as well that I actually think that there are a lot of us. You know, it's not the problem. We're not the ones that sweep the social network. You know, like if you can get 10% of people talking about something soon enough, everybody's talking about it. That's not
Right.
what we are. You know, we aren't that. We aren't a mimetic. Okay, we aren't a memeplex. We aren't Keck worshippers. But there's the loudest voices out there, the common filth out there, which our eponymous ally writes about and blogs about so much, YouTube's about. They're the loudest, but they aren't the majority.
Well,
So this is not complete end of the world, black pill, whatever. We actually do have substantial numbers. It's just that we are not a viral phenomenon. We're not a virus.
well, we don't even need to be the majority. I hear this all the time. Oh, the majority normies don't support us. You don't need that. And maybe I'm being idealistic, but you seriously, you go back to the 60s. You actually read about the 60s. The 60s today is so, and at least I don't know about Canada and Europe, but at least in America, the 60s it was the epitome of everything in our culture today. But if you actually go back to the 60s, it was very small in the terms of what we think today. Most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, were conservative, patriotic people, and the hippies we think about were outcasts. Maybe less than 10% of the population is in places like Berkeley and the Village in New York City. You don't need to be the vast majority. You don't need to be the most popular person out there at the time to influence the culture in a significant way. I don't know if I contradicted you or that helped, but bounce off of that.
Yeah, you don't need to see. There's a lot of us, but we're not a movement. You know, and this is what I said in that blog post. We are not a movement. Okay, cults are movements.
Right.
The church is not a movement. The church is a group of individuals. And individuals don't seem to have the same power as a movement does. Okay, like if you back to the founding of the church, you know, you think about these mystery cults that were all over the place in Rome. This deification of the emperor in Rome.
Right.
Okay,
Or
there's a lot.
I just read that. The cult
There's a
of
lot of
Mithras,
power.
yeah.
A lot of power in being the god emperor.
Yeah.
Okay, and yet the Christians took over.
Yeah.
When like most of the Christians were freaking slaves, for crying out loud. They were nobody. They took over though.
Hell,
And
the
quite
founding,
frankly,
the founding of this country, only the cliche goes, only a third of the country supported the revolution to break away from England. Third were loyalists, and the other third didn't give a shit as long as I can go to the tavern every night. And only 3% of actual Americans fought in the Continental Army on the battlefield. They still fucking won, and won in the end.
the point is that we show up in the future. That we
Yes.
have kids that don't turn into blue-haired homosexual deviants.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, the Benedictine option has gotten a lot of flack from people in the alt-right.
I actually support it completely. Sorry,
yeah,
go
Vox
ahead.
Day in particular, and I love Vox Day. Laramie Hirsch wrote a good blog post about this. That the Benedictine option is not, let's just run off into the hills and form our own little Catholic community and even if you could have done that maybe 20 years ago, and even then you probably couldn't have, look at Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
Even if you could have, that nobody is saying that. We all know that's not going to work. That's not what the Benedictine option is. The Benedictine strategy is that you protect your kids and you protect your wife, and that you get your life sorted out so that you've got a defensible territory, defensible space. And I don't just mean a defensible space in the physical sense, but in the legal sense. That, listen, I don't care if you like smoking marijuana, and I, I might do a video on this because I'm so sick of marijuana. I am really, really coming to despise that drug because it's, at least you know that you're screwed up when you're on heroin. Okay, and I mean, well, I guess Trump doesn't know that he's screwed up on Ibogaine, so whatever. But like seriously, marijuana is just absolutely terrible, guys. Don't do it. But more to the point, the reason you shouldn't be doing it is because if you have marijuana in your house, the cops now have valid cause to come into your house. You're leaving yourself exposed. You're leaving a back door open there. I don't care if you like marijuana. Don't bring it in your damn house. Yeah, and other things in general. Don't be around loose women. Loose women are a rape charge waiting to happen. Don't even listen. Don't be anywhere where they could falsely accuse you of anything. You see a drunk idiot girl at the bar, don't drive her home. Even if you have no intentions of sleeping with her, don't drive her home. Don't let that shit infect you. Create a secure environment for yourself. Stable environment. No crazy, no liability. Create a stable environment where things can grow. I think that really is the core of the Benedictine option.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, their version of the Benedictine option, I mispronounced it, kept orthodoxy alive in the East. I mean, when the communists took over, the Bolsheviks burned churches, they did all this. Stalin only reopened the churches during the war because he knew people wouldn't fight for communism, but they would fight for Mother Russia and the Orthodox faith. And then it was all done again. But the Benedictine option, those families that kept their traditions and their families stable and secret and alive away from the mess of communism, they kept that tradition and that culture and that heritage alive. And now it's revived and is the fucking East. And the East is the least paused part of the West right now.
Yeah, whereas we wanted to pretend there wasn't a war going on here, and we allowed our churches to be infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, you know what? Let me say something too. You know what? If you start going to church, the church is not going to be perfect. Okay, I mean, I don't want to complain about my church, which I just started going to, so it's not even really my church yet. But I like the head priest, or at least the one that I gave confession to. I like him. But the service had elements of white guilt attached to it, and peace at any price. That sort of, and yeah, I know that some people are going to call that cuckianity. Yeah, and unfortunately, that largely is the church these days.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's disappointing. Yes, it's frustrating. Where's the Deus Vult? Where's the church militant? Well, it's mostly baby boomers going to church. It's mostly old baby boomers who screwed up the world and don't want to admit to themselves how badly they screwed it up. It's no excuse for you not to go to church.
Right.
Everything's imperfect these days, and it's not going to get better if the men that actually want to do something positive abandon it.
Well, it's like your article said, Davis, we have to make ourselves better, because even from our perception point of view, okay, we the alt-right, we the new right, whatever you want to call it. I prefer alt-right because I've been so long, but Undertow on the Beck Love podcast made a good point that we are the right now. So but whatever term you want to use, why would anybody join this? You hit it earlier, Davis. Oh, you guys are going to revive the West. You guys are for traditional masculinity and traditional culture, but you guys don't live that. You don't go to you pick up whores at bars. You don't have large families. You say Deus Vult, but you don't know how to fight, and you don't go to church. We have to create ourselves because we just like LARPing fucking morons, like your article said. We're not actually living it. So how can we revive the West and inspire people to be better and revive the West if we ourselves don't live it?
Let me touch on touch on this cult of Kek for a moment again. This cult of irony, this god of laughter. You know that kid in high school that everything was a damn joke to him?
Uh-huh.
And you know what? Maybe you wanted to hang out with him and be cool by hanging out with him because he was cool because he made fun of everything. Only to realize eventually that guy makes fun of you as well. That's what Kek is.
Yes.
Listen, demons. Demons are these. They're things that have rejected. They are the lowest stratum of reality. Like we're at the stratum of reality where we can choose to acknowledge reality, and when we do that scientifically, we get great engineering marvels. When we do it morally, we become saints. We ascend to higher realms of truth. When we deny it, when we deny truth and posit our own vanities, we get communism, we get drug addiction, we get self-destruction, we get STDs, we get suicide. Okay, and so demons are those things just a layer lower than us. That everything they spout is a lie. It's all a falsehood. It's all a vanity. And that's what Kek is spouting. Like that kid in high school that was just sarcastic about everything as if he was better than it all. But he wasn't better than, he didn't have anything he stood for. When he made fun of the teacher, oh, you're just you're just doing this because of this. He didn't have a better system. He didn't have a purpose or a direction he was going. He was just tearing down others. This is what demons are. This is what Kek is. Kek is sarcastic, and it's pretending to be better when it's no better. And when you ally yourself with a force like that, it turns on you sooner or later. Soon enough, you become the punchline of the joke.
If I can pull out a historical figure, I would talk about Oscar Wilde as the perfect example of this. Anybody that's read Oscar Wilde, he was the talk of the town. If you read early Oscar, it's all a joke. He was the wittiest man. He made fun of everything. He didn't stand for it. He wasn't for patriotism in England or Ireland. He wasn't for the church. He was for nothing. Everything was a big joke. And then he laughed at every aspect of English society in his plays and his banter, and he lived this degenerate lifestyle because he was above it all. And you know what? He ended up broken in the laughingstock of England because his arrogance and his jokes turned back on him. If you actually don't know the story, when he was on trial for sodomy, and they asked him, "Are you a sodomite?" He says, I cannot speak the love that dare not speak his name. Oh, a very witty line. And they just looked at him and was like, what is that love that won't speak his name? Boom, he was caught. And he ended up broken in prison. And you actually read one of his best works, which is, oh God, I don't speak.
Giant.
No, not The Lonely Giant. Good story, by the way. His letter in prison, I forget its title. It's actually says Out of the Gutter, where he actually admits it was all a mistake. I was a fool. Do not have this laughing. De Profundis. Excuse me, it just came to me. De Profundis. Read De Profundis. He actually says.
Wait, how do you spell that?
De Profundis.
That's Latin, right?
Yeah, D-E space Profundis. P-R-O or P-R-O-N, whatever it is. But it's a great piece, Davis. I'm surprised you haven't read it. It's actually one of the best secular defenses of Christ I can imagine in its own way. But he actually says it was all a joke. This whole laughing, I'm better Kek type thing of his day, Carpe Diem, destroyed me. Don't go this route.
And I was going to say the Lonely Giant, which is It was turned into a great cartoon back in the 70s. That was written during his old age, living exiled in France, separated from his children. And he partly wrote it because the inn he was staying at, there's a young boy that was the daughter of the mistress of the inn, and he doted upon the young boy because he recognized everything that he had lost.
Right.
And he wrote The Lonely Giant about this. The Lonely Giant is basically a metaphor for eternal bachelorhood. Yeah, like the one of the first scenes, the Lonely Giant is sitting in his boat with the Frost Giant, and they sat and they talked until they had nothing left to talk about. And in the cartoon, they're sitting in a boat while the lake they're in dries into a field, and then they run out of things to talk about, so they're like, I guess I'm going home. You know, it's a metaphor for sitting around with your buddies, getting drunk, and just talking until all the wee hours of the night, and then it's like, 7 a.m., maybe it's time to go to bed. You know, that's fine when you're in your 20s. But at some point, you need to have children in your life. You need to grow the fuck up.
And that's what Dave Profundis is about, that letter. And it's all about how he refused to grow up. He was, he didn't abandon his children, but he stopped going home. He started doing all this. He lived that eternal bachelorhood, like going to the seedy gay brothels and getting drunk, and it destroyed him. And the way I would bring this back today is, like, he says that Kekivans, they were nothing serious. And Wilde lost everything. If we keep this, I'm above everything. Now we can mock liberalism. We should mock liberalism because it helps us to the end. But if we have this carefree attitude, like nothing serious, Kekism, we're going to lose the West. We're going to lose everything, our heritage, everything. We need not. I wouldn't call it church militant. It's a great phrase. I would say we need hard sincerity and passion is what we need, not laughing sarcasm.
And related to all of this, the new wave music has been, I don't know if it still is. New wave was popping up here and there. It was very, very fashy and goy. But I'm looking at all these, and I kind of like it. I enjoy it. It's like a new version of songs I used to listen to. But I'm looking at a lot of the images they have, and they have all of this propaganda material from the 80s. You know, they have like advertisements of the DeLorean playing at the beginning of the video. They have these sexy 80s chicks. And I'm going back to this Common Filth live stream that he posted earlier today, or podcast, whatever. And he's talking like the 80s were not the great point of America. They were the shame. Yeah, and this is where Trump came to power. This is where he made his brand, was in the 80s. And the 80s were the last little bit. The 80s were that 3 to 5 a.m. bit of the last of the Coke binge where the really hardcore SOBs are still going hard, whereas all the other people have already broken and passed out or collected an STD and descended into poverty. The really hardcore people at 3 to 5 a.m. during this Coke binge, that was the 80s. That was the era of the alpha consumer. And I think a lot of us are looking back at that nostalgically, when the 80s were just the runoff. They were the dregs of the 60s.
That's a good way to put it. I never thought of it like that. Bang up Common Filth.
Yeah, he nailed it there.
But even like you go to the fash wave and the new wave, whatever you want to call it, is this the West? Is this the West we want to create and create just this kitschy collages of our worst decades as a culture? Like, is that our new culture? That's kind of sad and not worth preserving. And that's...
You know, pop culture has run its course. We've run out. We don't have any more left. You know, there is no more new music. We've run out. You know, we've taken the degenerate form of music known as rock and roll or jazz. You know, and jazz, and quite frankly, America has a lot to answer for here. Okay,
Absolutely. I'll admit that as an American.
jazz comes out of the American version of opera. Okay, the Gershwin brothers back in the 1920s. They dumbed down opera and gave it stupid soap opera plots without any like. I mean, used to.
How dare you speak of Porky and Bess like that? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Porky and Bess is nothing but a shitty version of Romeo and Juliet. and these days we're considered culture for knowing about this degenerate pap. Yeah, like knowing where what's the guy that likes eating in Archie comics? Jughead. Yeah, knowing where Jughead's hat came from makes me cultured nowadays. It's utterly pathetic.
Oh, that's so sad.
By the way, it's a torn up fedora. Okay? It's men used to wear fedoras all the time, but when they got old and ratty, they'd give them to their kids, and their kids would put all these stupid bling in it, pins and whatnot. And so Jughead's crown is actually a torn up fedora. There, you learned something utterly useless about our dying culture.
Davis, you're so cultured.
Sad thing is I am. I say that at the bar, people look at me crosswise and start talking about hockey.
Here's my football.
We need to get back to real culture. And you know what? Once again, this real culture came about because we were trying to honor God. Classical music would not be the same. Like if let's say that we, to shift the culture and technologies for a moment, okay? Because technology is largely independent of culture. When classical music was developed, it was in a time where you didn't have radios, you didn't have records, you didn't have any of this. If you were going to go listen to music, you listen to the music, okay? You'd pay your ticket to go sit in an auditorium and listen to music for an hour and a half. And it wasn't about being an orgiastic idiot high on fentanyl. Okay, it was about sitting there and appreciating the beauty of it. And so classical music doesn't translate very well to the modern era because like when you went to listen to Holst play the planets, you would listen to each planet. Nowadays, you just want to listen to Mars, the Bringer of War, because, we need right-wing death squads. Doesn't translate as well because it was a different medium than radio. But radio does not inevitably mean songs that are 3.5 minutes or less.
I agree completely. I mean, one of the things that culture, and I'm an artist. I admit that I don't give a fuck what anybody says. People like Beyonce and all these manufactured power players are not going to take that craft and word from me. But like you said, our culture has run out. And why was it that old culture? And one thing I've been thinking about this a lot lately. One reason our culture is dying out and it's run out is because how far can you take this narcissism? I mean, all art today in culture, whether it's music or movies or video games, and I'll criticize video games because we as a person and others have touched on this. All culture today revolves around the idea of the self-expression. I'm so sick of the term self-expression and hedonism and pleasure. Like art is just for the self, or it's just art. This stupid Oscar Wilde quote, which he didn't even believe in, that art is just art and it's useless. All great art is about something bigger than the artist or the self. All great art is about God. Shakespeare's plays are great because it's about England. All great art is, the Aeneid, Virgil's great epic of Rome, is about the Roman people. It's a great art. We need to get back to a great art. If we want to have great art again, we have to get over this idea, this stupid bohemian idea of self-expression. And all art is about the artist. No, the artist himself is kind of boring. Great art is all about something bigger. It's about God or the nation or the people or the tradition or whatever. So if we need this, our culture has run out because it's taken the cult of the self, if you want to call it that, to its dead end. We have to get back to an art that's about something bigger than the self. That's my rant.
And if you listen to now listen, pop music is advanced. I will give this. If you find traces of popular music from centuries back, it was extremely repetitive. And you know what? If you want to see an example of this, look at Johnny Cash covers versus what he was covering. Johnny Cash's covers of pop music, and we've always had pop music. Okay, we've always had the talentless hack playing the same damn 3 chords. Punk thinks they're original for playing 3 chords and calling it a song. No, we've always had that, you stupid idiots. Johnny Cash takes this very simplistic thing where it's a bit of poetry written atop the exact same chord progression, and he actually turns it into something extremely artistic. So
take his cover of 9 Inch Nails' "Hurt." There's no fucking contest. His last great song, "Hurt," he just wipes Trent Reznor like he's a nothing with his cover of that song. I'm sorry, I interrupted. That's just a perfect example.
That his is more soulful than Trent Reznor's, because I think because he's a redeemed sinner. Okay, he's gone to confession. He knows the state of his own soul. Whereas Reznor, at least when he wrote that song, when he performed that song, is still in denial about the damnation of his soul. That's what makes that song better. But there's others. There's I went to the city with the streets paved of gold. All the people in the church, they want the kingdom of heaven, but they don't want God in it.
I don't know that song.
Okay, look up I freaking love that song. I went out walking. I think that's the name of it. I went out walking with a Bible and a gun, and I sincerely believed that I was the chosen one.
That's a good line.
Oh, it's beautiful. The original song sucks. It's painful how bad. It's the same lyrics. The lyrics are great, but the original song is just so utterly simplistic. Yeah, I know this because I requested it at karaoke, and they gave me the original version, and I could barely sing it. It's nothing but bland pop music for the South from the 1930s. Whereas Cash turns into something powerful. Okay, the invention of the bridge, the addition of the bridge to pop music, an absolutely phenomenal thing. But that said, yeah, music is declining. The best pop songs out there, okay, the best ones. I'm thinking of "Against the Wind" by Bob Seger. Actually, just about everything Bob Seger did isn't really about Bob Seger. There's this God's implicit in all of Bob Seger's music.
Right.
Same thing with Johnny. Well, sometimes God's rather explicit in Johnny Cash's music.
Yes.
"Against the Wind" is like just riding your motorcycle through the mountains looking for something bigger. Yes, it's The Wanderer. Thank you, Shady Soldier. It's The Wanderer by Johnny Cash. Go look up the original. It's freaking terrible. Johnny Cash mastered that song. But yeah, it's Bob Seger has a lot of this implicit hope. There's something grander, the Great Spirit, Doesn't really know what to call it, but it's there. And yeah, that's the exception with pop music. When pop music celebrates the artist, when it celebrates the listener, well, guess what? Humans aren't that interesting when you get right down to it. What do humans want? They want a taco, for Senor Common Filth, Senor Common, like a taco. They want a cummy. They want to be better than everybody else. They want to get angry about something. Humans are rather tedious. Holst Mars, the bringer of war. That song is just phenomenal. It is about. And actually, okay, I want to speculate about something else here. There are both higher and lower forms of these ideal things. And the problem with Kek is that we're worshiping the lower form. The frog as transitory agent. The frog as that thing that is both animal and fish, that dives into the water, that can retrieve the golden globe of empire and bring it back to the surface. Okay, like that is a positive symbol of the frog. Pepe and Kek are very negative symbols of the frog. In fact, I don't think anybody's touched on this. Maybe they have, but are you familiar with Bachelor Frog?
I am not.
All right, Bachelor Frog and Bachelorette Frog were these animal memes going around for being a loser bachelor or bachelorette. So like the one I really remember is Bachelorette Frog, and it's fart in bathtub, free vibrator. You know, like just about the degenerate, disgusting stuff that these isolated millennials get up to when nobody's watching because they're not held responsible for anything. Kek is very much the degenerate, the shadow version of the frog. And when you come to war, war is a grand and glorious thing. Have you read the science fiction series by C.S. Lewis?
That's one section of Lewis I haven't read. No, I have not read his sci-fi works.
Okay, it's not good science fiction, but it's very interesting theology. And in this, he speculates that the Roman Greek gods of the planets were actually the angels of the planets. And so the angel, the ruler of Mars, is the god of war. And now, so the human goes to visit Mars, and now all the species there are in correct alignment with God. They're not fallen like Earth is. Earth is fallen, okay, because our angel, Satan, he got twisted. He went sideways. So Earth is it's the silent planet, because nobody else has communion with them. Nobody can talk to them because our angel is in rebellion and we're all broken. So he goes to Mars, and everything there is about honor and violence and the courage of the hunt, but they don't have murder. They don't even know what murder is. It's unthinkable to them what murder is. So something like Holst the Planets, you know, like that force being summed up by Holst for Mars, the bringer of war, is something true and beautiful and fitting in with this kaleidoscopic reality we've been given. It's not horrible or ugly. Whereas some of the hatred and advocacy for genocide that I've seen out there is very, it's the dark form of war, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I bring this up because I kind of want to talk about Kek, since that's the name of this damn podcast, but like there's not that much to say about demons. You know, like what can you say? Like, you can say everything they say is a lie, and it's, if you listen to it, you will slowly, bit and bit, your life, you are going to walk straight into hell, and your life is going to get more miserable by the day and more pathetic. But they're hard to talk about because they don't say anything that's true. You know, it's like, how do you describe a liar beyond saying that he lies all the time?
Yeah.
And you know, I want to warn about this Kek god, but there's traps for Trump, my brothers, traps for Trump.
Oh, I'm going to point out, somebody said in the comments, I'm looking at the comments, and they said some people in the message, you're giving more power to Kek than people on message boards, and I think some people do believe in the power. You know, what they were saying on the one podcast I mentioned at the beginning, that this is how religion starts. But even if even there's people that don't, that's part of the problem. Like we've been talking about, like, oh, praise Kek. It's if they're saying it in total irony and shallowness that they don't actually believe in anything, that's part of the fucking problem that needs to be redeemed. How can we redeem ourselves if we don't actually believe in anything we're saying? If it's all a big fucking joke.
Yeah, I'll tell you, part of the problem with trying to I have to figure out how to phrase this. Since my baptism, I sometimes, usually about 6 hours before somebody starts going down a really dark path, I'll see these little dark flecks out of the corner of my eyes. And they look sort of like gnats. And trying to talk to somebody when these bloody things start showing up. You know, all you can talk to them is sense. All you can say to them is, you know, like, what you're doing is unproductive, what you're doing is foolish, what you're doing is self-destructive. It's not good for you, it's not good for him, it's not good for anybody. That's all you can say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't really, you know, like, when these flecks show up, you don't know what the hell they are. Yeah, and they don't care. They want to be anything. They will be anything they possibly can be. They will be rage. They will be jealousy. They will be lust. They will be greed. Like, whatever. They will fill whatever container that they can find to fill inside of you. And I mean, they seem to know that there's a container available for filling, you know, before I do. Like, all you can do is speak truth to these damn things. And yeah, it's the people that don't believe it, the people that are doing it ironically are the ones the most vulnerable to the whole damn thing. Yeah, like when you say, yeah, you know, Tony Santos, you know, the people that say Keck is just a joke. Yes, that's the damn problem. He's the endless joke.
Yeah, so it's just, I saw that, I was going to bring that up. Go ahead, yeah.
Let's see, I'm just checking out the comments right now. Yeah, it's something I'm hesitant to talk about because, like, if you see these damn things floating around, you don't give them attention. They want attention. Okay, like they thrive off of attention. And listen, as a human being, you can get attention from God, which is freaking terrifying. Okay, the beatific vision. All right, the reason we're trying to purify ourselves in this life, the reason we go to confession and try and let go of all those bad habits, is so that we are not too afraid of the beatific vision. The people that don't achieve the beatific vision, the people that don't achieve heaven, it's because they're afraid and they hate themselves. And you should be afraid and you should hate yourself, but you should also practice getting over that by accepting forgiveness. And so these dark little things flitting around, they want attention because they have denied God's attention. You know, and then we've got this little spark of divinity in us. And so they want to take that and get attention through that so that they can spread their lies a little bit further. Tutankhamun Chameleon says I project way too much onto anonymous people. Except, you know what? The only time I'm ever wrong is when I'm trying to think too highly of others.
So, Davis,
Brother, these people are messing with very, very dark forces, and they don't even realize they're messing with it. You know, it's like you start off being atheist cult because you want to feel smart, and you wind up getting into cannibalism porn.
Well, who was it? Colin Liddell or somebody else said this, and I'll say this about the people that, like you say, you end up in cannibalism porn, like a certain atheist on YouTube. That everything that starts out ironic and a joke that's continuously taken on becomes serious and real. Like if your whole world, if all you joke about is cack or whatever, you can say, oh, it's just a joke, it's just a joke. But if that's all you do for years on end, and it's like your whole thing, it becomes real to you because that's what you know. Is basically what he was pointing out. So,
if you listen to gangster rap songs all day long, and these songs are about flipping out and stabbing somebody, and they're about sleeping with a whole bunch of loose women, and they're about getting high and having fun, and if that's what you listen to all day, what are you going to do on the weekend?
yeah. I mean, that's rock and roll. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my own tongue. But people used to make fun of the old stuck-up people that stick up their butt like, oh, it's just rock and roll, man. It's just a little fun. It's just music. That's the fucking culture today. That little bit of fun that was just meaningless music is our whole culture today of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, if you will. It becomes real.
One of the songs I absolutely despise is Blue Suede Shoes by Elvis. Because it's a complete trash song. How is Blue Suede Shoes any different than Don't Scuff My Pumas, nigga? It's the same damn song. It's just the one is more honestly vulgar nowadays. And people delude themselves into thinking that the earlier one is somehow noble because, oh, well, he has blue suede. I don't frickin' know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what? Somebody who was it just now that said name the demons. I'm sorry, you disappeared into the chat log there. But yeah, name the damn demons. The reason that the very first step of exorcism is naming the demon, because demons are all about lies. Okay, these black little things that flit around, they're all about lies. Like the lie, I mentioned that Sir Mix-a-Lot or DMX or whatever idiotic rapper name the guy had. He has that song about y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, up in here.
That's DMX.
Okay, yeah, DMX.
Sorry, I know that.
Well, it was all over the damn place 10 years ago. That song is saying that you guys control how I think. It's not my fault that I flipped out and chimped out. It's your fault for forcing me to chimp out. And I'm heroic for chimping out. Look how heroic I am for being a chimp. That's the story being told by that song. And if you follow that song, you are going to wind up in remand, and you'll be having a debate with another degenerate that's also in remand, arguing which one of you was the real protagonist of that song. Yo, man, I fucked him up because he looked at my girl. Well, good for you. You're in remand. So you need to name the damn demon. And that the name of that demon is wrath. The name of that demon is, no, other people weren't controlling how you reacted. You chose the behavior. You chose wrath. Admit it. Admit that you got angry and admit that you did something stupid. As soon as you admit it, it loses its power over you. As soon as you name the damn demon, it loses its power over you. Yeah, and this is Keck. Keck is everything's a frickin' joke. I don't stand for anything. Keck took advantage of the fact that the liberals for various reasons. The liberals are completely ridiculous. But the correct response to the liberals being ridiculous, now, there's a time and a place that we make fun of them for that. Absolutely. Go make fun of liberals. They are ridiculous. They are hilarious. And we should make fun of them. But the reason we make fun of them is because we believe in logic, because we believe in truth. We believe in objective reality. And the liberals constantly bend over backwards to deny that. That's what makes them funny. But see, Keck, that's not where Keck starts. Keck is everything is funny. Keck is everything. Keck is a white nationalist and he is a Mexican illegal. Everything's fucking funny to Keck. You know, Keck pulls his pants down to his ankles and then he pees in the toilet. Just because that's weird and offensive. Without being offensive. That's the God being worshipped there. That there is no truth. We laugh at liberals, but we also laugh at ourselves. We laugh at everything. We laugh at liberals even though we fill our diapers up using our boy pussy while wearing a Make America Great Again hat. I mean, like, let me repeat that. A 20-year-old male cam whore pretending to be a girl shitting in an adult diaper while wearing a hat that says Make America Great Again. That is the high priestess of Keck.
Ew. Oh, God, I'm glad I didn't see that video. Please don't link me. Oh.
You've seen the PG-13 pictures of that individual, I guarantee you. I found out accidentally that this trap for Trump was also into the diaper fetishry.
Oh. Well, that goes back to your article where we and these idiots that say Keck's a big joke, they don't even realize it. Like, oh, liberals are so evil and stupid, but I'm gonna jack off to the porn they produce and listen to the trash music they produce at the same time. I hate liberals, but I consume the culture they make.
I'm David Duke, and I'm going to retweet a post by a Jewish porn starlet.
Oh my God, I can't even wrap my head around that.
And hey, listen, this is not an attack on David Duke. You know, maybe, you know, I probably, if somebody retweets something by who's our favorite tranny?
Blair White.
Yeah, Blair White, thank you. If somebody retweets something from Blair White just because they agree with it, you know, maybe they don't know who Blair White is. I'm not throwing aspersions against David Duke. What I'm doing is pointing out, I'm pointing to how fucking ridiculous reality is. Yeah, I don't know that he did it intentionally. I'm not demanding that he retract anything. I don't care. I'm pointing out that reality has become a goddamn joke because you guys gave power to a hypersigil. Yes, magic is real. Yes, all right, guys, magic is real. I'm about to control your thoughts. Don't think about a pink elephant. Do not envision a pink elephant. Do not envision a cartoon pink elephant galloping across the field with an idiotic smile on its face. Don't do any of that. The word spiel, you know, salesman spiel, and the word spell, they have the exact same root word. Okay? Mind control is completely real. Good Lord. I was at the bar earlier tonight, and there's this complete drunk idiot chick who didn't have very good control of her tongue, and it was kind of tempting in a, God, I'm glad I'm not tempted by that anymore sort of a manner. It kept hanging out of her mouth, her little tongue. And I played this with her, and she said, no, sex is the ultimate form of control. And I looked at her and said, babe, you should be we should both be glad that I'm, you know, partly redeemed at this point. I mean, like, that was a very dumb version of magic. That's a very simple version of magic, but that's what magic is. And it works. Okay, like, what do you think's coming out of your television? You know, part of the reason I go to the bar is to remind myself of exactly what reality is like for most people. And every time I go to the damn bar these days, you know, when I first started going to the bar, we didn't have TVs in them. All you had was classic rock on the radio, and you smoked a cigarette, and you drank your beer, and you talked to the guy next to you. You had a conversation. And nobody said, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. You talked about whatever the hell you wanted to talk about because you were drinking, and you were smoking, and you're having a good fucking time. These days I go to the bar, and I see television commercials. And I'm just absolutely fascinated by these things. Yeah, it's not so much what is said, it's what's not said that controls your mind. I actually think this is a major reason that Christians are forbidden from, you know, using ritual magic, using advanced forms of magic. Is because, listen, like what I said, don't think about a pink elephant. And you're all thinking about a damn pink elephant right now. That's explicit, that's on the nose, it's obvious. The darker forms of magic, it's what they don't include. It's what they don't say. And that's what controls you. That's what you shouldn't be messing with, because when you're excluding something which ought to be present, you're excluding God. You know, pornography, it shows you the heights of sex without showing you the consequences of sex, positive or negative. Am I making any sense here, brother?
You are. You are. I wanted to point out that people in the chat are saying, there are a couple, I don't know if they're haters or just trolls, but they're saying too much time on the internet, and I agree. I think that's part of the problem, both good and bad in this sense, and that for the past 2 years, basically, and this is where Keck comes from, for the past 2 years, and this, I'm going to tie this into what you're saying about magic. For the past 2 years, we've been wrapped up on the internet with memes and gifs and all this other stuff about Trump. And so this is where the meme magic that they say about Trump and all that, we've spent way too much time on the internet, and this is a major problem with the alt-right, is that what is the West we're defending? Is it a bunch of internet memes? I mean, we have to, this is why I'm just still bowled over by your article, Dave. It really struck me, because I admit I'm guilty as hell of this, too much time on the internet. And I think we've all spent way too much time on the internet, and it's making us, and here, the very nature of the internet is everything's a big joke, and that's how Keck arose. I think to truly revive the West, we have to step back from, you know, the inner tubes for a little bit.
See, I don't know if it's the internet in particular. Because like, I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with the soul of what you're saying. But I don't think it's the internet in particular.
No. What I'm saying, I'm not saying the internet is the big magic forum. Oh, go ahead.
Because you are right. You are right. The internet is the vehicle for a lot of this stuff. The internet is, all right, let me put it this way. Everybody that, I have used the internet to get to know some people very well. And for the most part, we've all met up. You and I haven't met up. I haven't met up with Roosh.
Great guy.
But you guys are the exceptions on that list. And the thing is that you, but like both you and Roosh have a very real presence. Like the internet presence that you have is a genuine presence. Same thing with Roosh, myself. Forney, Beckloff, etc. We are using the internet for genuine forms of communication. But the same way that you used to be able to go to a bar to actually meet interesting people and have a conversation with them, as opposed to going to the club. Yeah, and this is going way back in the day, folks, okay? I'm an old man. Going to the club, you went there to wear some stupid outfit with a giant logo on it because the lighting was so dark that you had to have a big stupid logo on it to prove that it was an expensive shirt.
Did you go clubbing with Mystery a couple times?
Oh no, close enough. We'll just say close enough. Yeah, I used to know people that would spend $150 on a damn shirt because it had a big logo on it.
Oh God!
Just bad those assholes at the country club that have that stupid crocodile on their polo. But you go to the club to be a fake person, to pretend to be a human being, to pretend to be a rock song, to pretend to be cool. And a lot of people go to the internet to pretend to have a political opinion.
Yes, this is the point I was making. We're using the internet as a vehicle to fill the void of what we have in real life in terms of the West and who we are and what we're fighting for. And that's why I was bringing back to your article.
Yes. And listen, a lot of you guys, like, hell, I recognize you guys. Okay? You know, like, who fetched the fish. I always recommend that ridiculous Mormon's stupid picture of a seal and his ridiculous YouTube name. I always recognize that guy. And yes, it's a handle you're using. Yes, it's an avatar that you're using on the internet, but a lot of you are genuine. Now, like, listen, QQ. Okay, I'm going to defend furries for a second here. God forbid.
Okay.
The QQ. Do you know that there's something called alt furry?
I've heard of it. I read an article on Counter Currents, and I still can't believe it exists. Yes.
Well, it's from what I gather, it's not quite as terrible and degenerate as it sounds. The QQ views his weird furry alien avatar as a bit of an idealized version of himself. So he is playing the QQ on the internet because that's the better side of himself that he wants to become in real life. He doesn't go on it because he wants to yiff with somebody else over some sort of preternatural sexual scenario. It's actually quite the opposite. You know, you have half the internet using the internet to pretend to be something they aren't and can't be. And you have the other half using the internet to go be the best version of themselves. Again, it's what you bring with you that determines what you are. It's your intentions going into the thing. You know, it's C.S. Lewis again. C.S. Lewis, I believe it was him that pointed out that God is like an inverse genie. You know, a genie gives you literally what you asked for and not what you need. Whereas God assumes the absolute best intentions of what you asked for and gives you that. I've upset a lot of people by defending the QQ.
You have. That's what I'm laughing at in the comments.
You know, I've been watching the QQ for a while. I see nothing but quality posts coming out from that guy, very insightful commentary. And yeah, I'm not a fan of the furry thing, but as far as I know, there's no erotica of that weird waif, that weird alien waif avatar that he has. All right, well, let's get this this live stream closed out, and let's try and finish off with some questions. So, folks, please, let's toss some questions out here. So we've got some good stuff to finish off, because I haven't been paying much attention to the comments thus far. Oh, please don't tell me QQ's a homosexual.
Oh.
Well, mind you, that's Tutankhamun Chameleon saying that. And you're generally pretty ornery fellow. You know, you might want to pull the plank out of your eye before you start, worrying about slippers and other people's. So, how do I feel about neo-pagans? Well, again, to go with C.S. Lewis here, I'd say, I'll take a genuine pagan over a atheist any day. There's a lot of these neo-pagans that are just using it for cheap affect. Because it's easy to be a neo-pagan because there's no rituals that you have to perform. There's no standards you need to adhere to. But then there's some that they're generally looking for something heroic. And I don't know. It's a complex thing, man. I do think that like any form of paganism is going to lead you down the road to death. It's not going to give you perfect salvation, but you might not necessarily be going to hell. You might just have a lot of time in purgatory until you learn to accept help from others. You have any thoughts?
I know a bunch of pagans. I would say this. I think I understand where they're coming from in that, and this is going to get me an ass kicking by John Steele. I think most pagans come from a good place in that today in the West, I can understand, how Christianity is, like you said earlier, that they're looking for something real, a real identity to build on. But at the same time, it's LARPing a little bit in that sense. Like they're just trying to pull out an identity that they liked, and there's nothing, a real authentic identity about that. Do you know what I'm talking about, Davis?
Well, and listen, Steele isn't here to defend himself, but I'm going to attack him anyway.
Oh God, I didn't, John. Just remember that I didn't.
No, I love John Steele, but the one thing he points out frequently is that his tribe is his religion, and your tribe is your normative values. And the thrust he's making with this point is that when you have different tribes, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one tribe is better than the other tribe, it's just that they have normative values, and if everybody agrees to walk or to drive on the right side of the road, we have coherent traffic. And if there's a debate over that, we get an absolute mess. But the problem is, like, well, what does your tribe stand for? Why, like, what is the purpose of the tribe? If the purpose of the tribe is just to outbreed the other tribe, then your purpose should just be to outbreed the members in your own tribe. Yeah, like you do need something higher than all of this to tether value to. You do need a godhead. And part of the reason I think that Western paganism was so much less toxic than a lot of Eastern paganism, part of the reason the church could incorporate so many pagan traditions into the church is because in both Druidism and in the Nordic religion, there was an implicit higher power. There was an implied God behind all of this, an absolute that came even before the god that Odin had to murder, the one that kept eating his children. And actually, if you think about it, like the father that Odin killed is actually a very good metaphor for the devil, the father that kept eating his children, but was not the absolute arbiter of reality, given that Odin could rebel against it in such an absolute manner.
Yeah. Well, I can't add to that. What I would say, it was a great point. I would, to finish my point on paganism, I would say, like I was saying about the LARPing, is how many pagans actually believe in it? Like how many actually believe in Odin and Yggdrasil? I can't pronounce it. The tree that the Norse world is divided on, and Siegfried and all that other stuff. How much of it's just LARPing? Because it's the white man's. I will say this about Christianity. There's a lot of people that say do us vault, but don't actually believe. You know what I mean? You can't just LARP like that. So I think paganism has a good place, but I think there's a lot of LARPing in it.
Well,
And Christianity has that
what,
too.
I've actually read more pagan mythology than I have read the Bible.
Oh, same here.
And I respect and admire and incorporate all of that mythology into my life as a Westerner, and like the Tao Te Ching, for instance. I think that's an amazing book. I've read a little bit of Hinduism. I've read more of the Chinese religions or philosophies or whatever, because those Chinese are so fucking autistic they can't tell the difference. And I try and incorporate that as well. I don't see that as being against God. I don't see Druidism or paganism as being anti-Christian. I see it as being I view Christianity as the whole feast, and paganism as the spices.
Well, the church fathers were the same way. There's this stupid myth today since the Enlightenment that the church fathers were this big intolerant group that wiped out the pagans. No, that's not true. The church fathers, like Augustine, knew paganism inside and out.
They converted the pagans.
Yes.
Because they respected them.
Mm-hmm. Now, Charlemagne's a whole different fucking matter. I'm not talking about Charlemagne. I'm talking about the church fathers.
Yeah. Listen, any religions founded after the birth of Christ are a whole other matter. You're not going to take a Wiccan. Wicca is a modern religion. It's barely a religion, okay? But I guess it technically qualifies. It was founded, what, like 100 years ago? Maybe?
I don't think it was that late. I think it's 20th century creation.
Oh, yeah, 20th century. 100 years at most, probably more like 30 or 40. You're not going to convert a Wiccan on common ground, because her theology is founded upon Christian heresies, upon communism, the idea that we can have free money, that the idea that men and women can somehow be equal, like in a Dungeons and Dragons game, where a woman can have a strength of 18, like that sort of equal. Yeah, like not the equality of the value of a woman's soul, because they are equal that way, as weird as they are. But the idea that women can be physically and mentally equal to a man, and that so men and women should be put in the same field of combat. Like part of the issues with game. Speaking of that. Quite frankly, man, women are better at emotions. We're better at logic. And
fact, yeah, no disagreement there.
And what's happened with our society is that women are better at manipulating things. And so when men and women are both in the workplace, guess what? Guys get fired for sexual harassment. When men and women are thrown into an unregulated sexual market, guys with game get to use women for sex, and the women hurt because of it. That silly girl that I mentioned at the bar, the one that her tongue kept hanging out of her mouth, and she kept touching me, and etc. Do I need to finish this thought?
No, I know where you're going.
Exactly, and it would have been wrong. It would have, I wouldn't. It wasn't a huge temptation. It was just, it was there on the table that if I wanted to do this, I could. Sort of the same way you're standing at the subway and you're like, hey man, I could push this guy in front of the subway right now. Same kind of a thing. And that would have been unfair. She's this drunk idiot girl. She can't handle her liquor. She has no idea how to be cautious. She thinks she's in control. And that's the sad thing. She thinks she's in control of everything. When it's, no. Us men are far better schemers than you ladies are. You're better at emotional manipulation. We are better at scheming. And I'm really not. I don't want to put a value judgment on that. But yeah, when you toss men and women to the same fields, women will unfairly benefit in some, and men will unfairly benefit in others, and society as a whole will hurt because of it. Man, I don't even know if half these comments are trolling or not.
You got a lot of trolls tonight. I'm looking at them like, wow, the best are out tonight. It must be because of the full moon.
I should have monetized this damn video. All right, guys, toss some more questions. Give us a couple more questions that we can respond to. Somebody asked me if I'm an alcoholic. And, you know, alcoholic, what do you think alcohol does to you? Whether or not you're an alcoholic, it involves what you think alcohol does to you. If you think alcohol makes you lose control, ergo you give yourself permission to lose control, you know, the same way the guy smoking oregano in college starts acting like a doofus because his friends told him it was weed. I'm not big on the, listen, I do understand addiction, but I'm very suspicious of it. Most people that are addicted aren't addicted. They just don't want to resist it. So which of the Easter services affects me the most? And honestly, man, I don't know. Do you want to broach that topic, Craig?
Not really. I'm sorry. I don't have an opinion on that one. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll say that the fact that Christ chose to be a man, he chose not to call upon his Father when he was being derided and spat upon. And he put up with all of that for the sake of the very people who were spitting upon him. Yeah, this is one of the things that kind of bugs me when people say that Christianity is beta.
Yeah, Jesus picking up a whip and whipping the money changers out of the temple is real fucking beta.
Exactly. And then, but there is times when, as a man, you know what? In the original Judge Dredd movie, you know, where Judge Dredd stands there and has his uniform ripped off of him, even though he's innocent. Okay, that's not beta. The law. Like, he's not being beta there. He respects the law. Even though he has been falsely accused, he respects the law. That's not beta.
I always use this analogy. If Christ dying to save mankind for their sins on a spiritual level is so, if Christ sacrificing himself is beta, then a soldier jumping on a grenade to save his comrades physically in the trenches is beta too.
He should have been fucking chicks, man.
Yeah, that's what I would say. That's how I would answer that one.
Hey, we got Laramie Hirsch here. By the way, buddy, send me a tweet if you've got a Twitter, because I don't know what your Twitter is. I have not seen The Passion of the Christ. I do want to, but like, it's not the sort of movie that I watch for fun. You know?
Oh, I saw it in the theaters. It came out. It's hard to watch, but it's a work of art. Mel Gibson is just a fucking phenomenal filmmaker.
I'll probably watch with my girlfriend when she's further along her conversion path. Because it's a very hard thing to understand why it's meaningful if you don't understand everything else that goes along with it. I mean, like, otherwise it's just, you know, a guy getting brutally tortured for an hour and a half.
I'll tell you the most. I don't want to ruin the movie. How can I ruin the movie for you, Davis? You know the story. But everybody talks about the brutality of the movie. In my opinion, the most powerful scene in that movie. It's the acting, it's Mel Gibson's direction, it's the music playing. It's a scene when Christ is first arrested, and it just touched me as the way when we talk, because we're talking about Trump's betrayal and all this, in that the scene when Peter denies, the cock crows and Peter denies Christ for the third time, and Mel Gibson frames it so Peter denies it. Christ looks over and just looks at Peter, and the actor playing Peter, his face just drops, and Peter just expresses his betrayal of this man he loves to save his own ass. It's a powerful way they do it. That was scene affected me the most out of everything in the movie.
That's one of those idiosyncrasies in the Bible again. That is such a transparently stupid forecast, and how the hell did Peter accidentally do exactly what Christ said? It sounds really contrived, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If I were trying to create a believable fictitious story, I would not include something so incredibly contrived. Another example is when after Christ resurrects and he runs into his followers on the road and he starts talking to them, they don't recognize him at first. That sounds really contrived. It's idiosyncratic. It doesn't make sense. But have you ever run into somebody you knew in a circumstance or environment where you did not expect to know them? Because I'll tell you, I once ran into a girlfriend, a girl I was dating. This is back in high school. She went to high school in a different city. I once ran into her, like she was just hanging out in the hallway at my high school. And so I kind of looked at her, kind of sort of recognized her. I nodded at her and I kept walking. Then about 30 seconds later, I turned around and said, "Wait, you're my girlfriend, aren't you?" Because I did not recognize her. I didn't expect to see her there. And so that whole bit with his disciples not recognizing him after he was resurrected, like that sounds really weird, but it's not the sort of thing that maybe you'd make it up if you were a really great story writer. I don't know. I'm not that great.
But Davis, that happened to me the other day. That's real life. I mean, that's when Lewis said it was a true myth. I was driving home from work yesterday, and this would sound really contrived. So I'm in the car driving, and I'm crossing over this bridge. I'm in the middle lane, and the car in the left lane has somebody in the passenger seat sticks his arm out and starts waving me on. I'm like, okay, whatever. I just drive by, I look in the car, I don't recognize the people. So I keep driving, looking ahead. All of a sudden I hear this voice say, "Hey!" And I look over, it's my fucking cousin and my uncle in the car. They had recognized my car and were waving me along to talk to me. I didn't even recognize them when I looked in the car and kept driving, and they caught up to me. That happens in real life.
Yeah, and if you just saw somebody die, and your last memory of them is covered with blood and beaten and whatnot, and they walk up to you the next day and say, "Hey, what's up, mate?" And you're grief-stricken, you're not going to recognize them. You're going to say, "My savior just died." So yeah. Anyway, that's just another. That's an idiosyncrasy. Like the cult of Mithras is what we expect from a savior god. Christianity is what we get from a savior god, where he's not the pussy that the Churchians want, and he's not the badass Fourth Reich, alpha male that the young men want. He's confusing. He's frightening.
Huh.
All right, so we got.
Well, before we go, I can actually bring that back to the alt-right right now with Trump and our spiritual dilemma right now in the Western world. So we've been talking about all night how Western man, white man, Christian man is so spiritually in the dumps right now. And instead of looking at ourselves, saying, okay, we are the reason we are in this dilemma, we have to change ourselves on a spiritual and emotional level. We want Trump or anybody to come here and just politically save us. That's what the Jews at the time wanted. They were under Roman occupation, and instead of taking Christ's message of we need to spiritually better ourselves, they just wanted this political savior to overthrow Rome and kick him out, and just solve all their problems like that without having to change themselves.
And the change starts with you. You know, one of the commenters was mentioning. I want to touch on this just very briefly. He was mentioning psychedelics. Be careful with those damn things. Go to confession first. Be in a state of grace. Know why you're doing them, and do them with somebody else who is also in a state of grace. I've seen people absolutely shatter themselves, destroy themselves. I've seen strong men turn into SJWs on psychedelics. Do not. Listen, you get drunk, worst case scenario, you sleep with a trap, and that's not even gay these days. You know, worst case scenario, you get drunk and you do something you regret and you have to apologize the next day. You screw with psychedelics, you'll either get closer to God or you'll run away from him. So I'm not saying don't do them. I'm just saying be fucking careful when you mess with that shit, because the thing with psychedelics is that you are going to see something, whether you like it or not. That's why they call it a trip, because you are on that trip until you're done the trip, and you're going to see something. And if you treat it like a goddamn joke, and I think a lot of people treat mushrooms like a joke. I'm not a fan of psilocybin, I'll tell you that much. If you treat it like a joke, you will become a joke. Yeah, Jaffaus says, Christ's radical responsibility. The radical idea of Christianity is that God actually gave us a little bit of his creative power to the point that we can choose our future. We can choose our salvation or our damnation. It's up to you.
What's that quote by? I'll end on this one. What's that quote by G.K. Chesterton? I love Chesterton, but I can't think of it. It's like the problem people have with Christianity isn't that it hasn't been tried and found wanting, or something like it hasn't. It hasn't been tried and found wanting. It's that it's been tried and found difficult. Something like that. I'm butchering it.
Found wanting.
Huh?
That man was found wanting.
Mm.
I mean, like, yeah, you will find yourself wanting. You will find yourself falling short all the frickin' time. But you get back up and you keep walking forward and you do it all over again. And you know what? One last thought about all this political nonsense is Trump is sure as hell not the president we were hoping for. I think that's abundantly clear.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean that he is a bad president or that he was the wrong choice or what. What it means is that welcome to reality. It sucks. It has always sucked. It sucked in the 12th century. It sucked in the 16th century, and it sucks in the 21st century. What you do is you get your shit together. I get my shit together. Craig here gets his shit together. You get your shit together. And then we stumble and we screw things up and we get the fuck back up and we start getting our shit together all over again. And I think that is, yeah, guess what? It's not vote for President Trump, we get 1,000-year Fourth Reich, whatever. No, it's every single day you get up, you get your shit together. You know, you try and become a man that deserves a loving woman. And if you find a loving woman, you get up and you try and be a good husband to her. And if you're a woman, you get up and you try and be a good wife to him. And you try and raise your kids right. And every single day, you get up, you do that all over again. And that's how you live a good life.
Yeah. Life is struggle, and you live a good life when you master struggle. That's what I would say.
Or you could play video games and look at porn.
Well, that's... and praise CAC.
And study chemistry.
Oh.
Oh! Oh! Did I go there?
Yes, you did.
Fuck
Damn,
that
these
guy's
haters are on fire in your comment section.
Okay. All right. One last question. What do I think of Brother Nathaniel? I need to watch more of him. I like the fact that he hates the Jews so much, especially since he is one.
He's a good Jew. That's what I'll say. He's one of the... what is it? The 10,000 that's going to enter heaven? He's one of them.
And listen, there are some Jews that I genuinely like. That I'll never be a good 1488er because I like some Jews. I'm worried about them. I'm trying to... It's a subtle topic, okay? It's a subtle and complex issue. And fuck Kushner, okay? I mean, I don't know him personally, but I'd be very surprised to meet him in heaven. I'll buy him a beer if I meat him in heaven, all right?
I'll punch him in the face.
Oh. It's a complex topic. I worry about the Jews. I worry about the salvation because I think there's a lot of decent ones out there, and I think they're following a lot of rabbit trails. And but honestly, if you want to de-enslave yourself from the Jew, consider following the first man that ever asked the Jewish question and answered it.
Bang.
All right. So we should get out of here. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't worship Kek. Love God. Get up every morning, even if you don't believe in God yet. Just get up every morning and go be useful. Go do something. Go clean your dishes. Go mop the floor. Go do something. Go be freaking useful. Okay? Because you'll hate yourself less at the end of the day. You have any last thoughts, Craig?
Yeah, just be useful and make a better you. The cliche, be the hero you want to make a better you. I'm not really looking forward to tomorrow starting because as part of this be a better you, tomorrow my strict diet starts, and so it's water for breakfast. Not water and bread, but it's no more junk drinks. So yeah, be a better you tomorrow. Embrace the struggle. I have to do it tomorrow.
Thank you very much for listening, folks. And one last thought. As much as things suck, they could be a hell of a lot worse. None of us listening were forcefully made into castratis, so at least you got your balls. Deus Vault. This has been me and Craig. You can find a link down to his Twitter account down below. Thanks for listening. Aurini out.